This illustration deals with selection of ampacity in accordance with 310.14 A as in Apple II exception. The purpose of the change, section 310.14 A2 has been relocated from 310.15 A2 in the 2017 National Electrical Code. Now, notice if you're doing these calculations, I kind of go in this order. You can do it either way you wanted. But first, ampacity A has a higher ampacity for 9 foot of the 100 foot greater than 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Now notice this is floor 1, this is floor 2, and we have a different temperature in the routing. Now the only thing that takes place here, where does the 10% apply? Now some say, well, it applies from right where this conduit goes through the floor here, and they say, well, from here to here, that you take 10% of whatever this run is, or take 10 feet, and whichever calculation gives you your ampacity is what you would use. Then others say, no, we look at the ASHRAE Fundamental Handbook, which we're referred to from 310.15 B2 as in boy, exception, and we look at it that you'd route it from here all the way. So if you had 100 foot from this panel to this equipment on the second floor, you take 10% of 100, and that would give you 10 feet. That when you did your math, that would be right next, as you see here. It says C310.14 A2 exception for the 10-foot rule or 10% rule, see? So that gives you the reference, and then how will the authority having jurisdiction want you to apply that? Now notice the lower ampacity A is exposed only 7 feet. Now, you're allowed, if 10%, you're allowed, 10 feet there, but you're only exposed 7 feet here, and overall, you're allowed 9 feet, so you're not in a D-rate factor there, see? So your terminal ratings, you go to 110.14C, 310.14 A2, informational note, and A3 informational note 2, and of course you're looking at if it's 100 amps or less, your 60 degree C terminals, unless the equipment is specially marked 60/75, and if you're using say non-metallic sheath cable, Romex, rope, whatever you call it, depending on where you live and what state and so forth. Then notice if you look at 334.80, it specifically tells you that you can take that XHHW and that AC cable or non-metallic sheath cable and take the 90 degree ampacity and derate back to a usable 60 degree. But notice all cables are 60 degrees C unless specified otherwise if they're 75 degrees C. Make note in your mind, there's no 90 degrees C terminals and equipment and conductors, it would be rated for that to combine it and make it legal. Now look at your quick calc up here. Ampacity is 7 feet. So 7 feet is less than 10 feet, as you see here. 7 feet is less than the 10 feet, and your higher is just 9 feet of 100 foot. So calculation 2, 10% of 90, that's where you get the 9 foot up here, see? 10% of the 90. So note 1 says the ambient temperature on second floor is greater than 86 degrees Fahrenheit. But have you exposed more than 10 foot of it? See, that's the rule. Ampacity shall be permitted to be used instead of ampacity A due to only 7 foot of conductors being exposed to a higher temperature. Now, when you start exposing these conductors to higher temperatures, you need to get you a copy of the ASHRAE Fundamental Handbook. You can type in ASHRAE .org. Their site will come up. Type in the research window, the ASHRAE Fundamental Handbook. And again, 310.15b2 informational node refers you to the ASHRAE Fundamental Handbook to see conditions where conductors and equipment and so forth are installed where ambient temperature could be a problem. It even addresses the temperature on the roof there for you. So keep this in mind, that this is dealing with selection of ampacity. And you have to look at 310.14A2 exception, and then you would need to look at 310.14A3 items 1 through 4 for the golden rule of the application procedure to determine the ampacity of conductor based upon its condition of use. Be sure that you remember these sections and review them if your responsibility is routing these conductors and conduit cables or designing, either one.